Howdy, howdy, howdy again, everybody. Isaac, the new backwoodsman here, coming at you with another little knife review. Today, we have the Buck Model 104 Compadre, seen here in its sheath. You may have, or you may not have, seen this knife in some of my older videos. It was featured in those videos, but not exactly a review like this one is. So if you want to see those older videos, check my playlists and look for the Buck Knives playlist. You'll find one of me sharpening this knife, the Buck Model 104. As you can see, this knife has been used. We use ours here, not collectibles. Nothing against those who just collect knives and keep them pretty, but for me, I use them. So anyway, you can find that sharpening video in there with me touching this up on my Work Sharp field sharpener after using it to baton through some wood that you can see in a video. I believe it's titled Campfire Hot Dogs and Buck Knives or something to that effect. And there's also a video of an overnight camp out in the woods with my stepson Xander, who is actually the cameraman behind the footage you will see upcoming in this video. This knife and a couple other bucks were taken along on a camping trip we did back in November. That was the last one we did. We are long overdue. Springtime baseball takes up a lot of our time, so hopefully we can get out sometime this summer before school really heads up again, and then definitely hopefully a couple times in the fall when it's not 90 degrees. So anyway, back to the Buck Model 104 Compadre. We have a 9.5 inch overall length, 4.5 inch blade. So do the math, you got about 5 inch handle there, right? Right? Maybe. I don't do math. I need a calculator. We got my Carta handle scales. Bolted in there with hex screw bolts, so if you want to unscrew those, there you go. It's kind of a squarish handle with some roundness at the edges. Full tang knife, as you can see, 5160 spring steel at 5/32 or 0.15 inches thick. A little bit of jimping right on there for a nice firm grip, like this, like this, like this. The tang notches out a little bit there to give you a bit of a hand guard. So my last video was on the Buck 656 Large Pursuit, very similar in size to this knife. You know, the blade shape obviously different. There's pluses and minuses to both knives. This knife has a thinner blade, meaning this way, width, I should say, I guess, than the 656. This one is a tad thicker at the spine at 0.15, where the other was 0.14. Both are full tang. I do like the ergonomics of the 656 Pursuit with the finger notches in there, which make for a better guard on the 656 Pursuit. However, the materials of the 5160 spring steel and the micarta handles are a plus for this knife. Price point, this one is about double the price of the 656 Pursuit. So you're looking about $100 for this knife at most retailers. Excuse me, just dropped the sheath that I want to show you. This is a made in the USA leather sheath. That focuses in there. You can see the American flag and the Model 104. All leather except for the flap here that you snap it closed, made out of nylon. Why they didn't make that out of leather, not sure. Seems a little off to me, but it works. So, Buck Model 104, take a look at some test footage here coming up. All right, let's step outside and see what we can do with this knife. Give you a nice visual here to start off. Now we're gonna head over to this cedar tree here while I get situated, and we're gonna use the spine of the knife to scrape off some of this bark from the cedar tree. The cedar tree is a really cool tree, one of my favorites, as it has this really shaggy bark that's pretty easy to peel off, even if you're not using a knife. We're just demonstrating the abilities of the spine of this knife to do some work, and you want your spine to be able to do work so that you save that keen, sharp edge that you worked hard to obtain for bigger and better tasks than for scraping some old bark off a tree for a fire tinder. Now, an advantage of using the spine of the knife, ideally, would be to get some finer shavings than just ripping it with your finger. So here we're kind of gonna dig a little hole here because it's pretty windy out today. We got Hurricane Elsa blowing in, and something keeps coming up in the corner of the camera there. A nice little finger. But Elsa's blowing in, singing "Let It Go, Let It Go," and all that, bringing that hurricane. We don't really get the blunt force trauma of the hurricane here in Virginia where I live. We just get a bunch of rain, but it is coming on in. So as you can see, the spine of this knife does fairly well for making sparks off of this ferro rod. I didn't really get enough tinder off the tree there to, make a real usable fire. But it is lighting. You can see it there. I just needed it to... I didn't really work hard on this because, as you saw, I just took it off the tree and tossed it in this little hole I dug with the knife. But we're going to keep at it here for a few minutes because, if you don't keep at your fire and you're out in the woods surviving and thriving, bushcrafting and all that, you're going to be kind of SOL. Fire is the sustenance of life. Even in your modern home, in case you didn't know, there's probably a small fire in your home somewhere keeping you warm, making you have hot water for your shower, for your dishes. I've got a gas water heater in my home. There's a small little pilot lit there all the time. Tiny little fire, making my home and my water nice and warm. But anyways, yeah, this is kind of a fire fail. And there, we're just showing, we're throwing sparks. We could get this going if we tried a little harder. Maybe if we had some of that magical fat wood there too, but we don't. So anyways, let's move. Are you going? So here we are. This is what we do every video. We carve a nice tactical stick. So, as you can see, this blade is a really good size. A 4 to maybe 5 inch blade is a perfect size for general use in the outdoors, hunting, bushcrafting, surviving and thriving, which that's what bushcraft is. Dave Canterbury defined it in his book Bushcraft 101. Bushcraft is the art of surviving and thriving in the wilderness. It's a good concept, surviving and thriving. You're not out there roughing it, so to speak. And that goes way back to Nesmic's writing, where he was out in the woods to smooth it, not to rough it. If you're roughing it, having a rough time, you're not having fun in the outdoors. You want to be comfortable. You want to enjoy yourself. Be out in nature and love it. Not rough it. Not come home with 16,000 mosquito bites and say, ah, yes, that was wonderful. No.
That's good.
But, you know, this knife, the 104 Compadre, excellent companion tool to bring with you when you're camping, out on a hike. You gotta have a nice, sturdy, fixed blade knife when you're out on a hike. I don't care if it's a day hike, out short trip. You need to have the essentials with you, as most people find themselves in desperate situations when they're just out for a simple day hike. Well, I won't say most people, but you know, most disaster situations that would need a search and rescue or something start off as a simple day hike. Here we found some old piece of floorboard or something, it seems, out here in this little tree area in my neighborhood that I've shot a few different videos in. So we're just going to hack at it a little bit, show this knife's chopping ability, or lack thereof. So, I mean, this knife is 7 ounces, has a 4.5-inch blade. It's not a great chopping tool. It's just not. And I mean, it shouldn't be. This is a companion knife. Buck has a series of knives and tools called the Compadre series. This is, the belt knife of the series, the model 104. They also have a fro, which this task that I'm performing right here would be best done by the fro. And I'm trying to baton through that floorboard with this skinny little stick as my baton, which is, it was a big failure because it's way too light. So we'll baton through the skinny stick with floorboard. And there we shaved off a nice piece. And we're gonna just try some nice feather stick kind of curls here, because it's not a real knife review unless you try to make a feather stick. And I've never used a feather stick to start a fire. It's just kind of a, maybe I will someday. This knife actually did a pretty good job. Definitely want to test out my BPS Bushcraft knife with the nice Scandi grind. See how that does feather sticks in comparison with this hollow grind Buck model 104. But as you can see, man, this is doing a pretty good job. I guess maybe they're not super thin curls, but that's good enough for me.
Okay, now come.
Now, well, here we go. We got a bigger baton on that floorboard. We're gonna hammer on down through. Is this knife good for batoning? I mean, it's not ideal because it's 4.5-inch blade. That's why Buck made the fro to go along in the set with this. Now, I don't own that. They also make a little pack or camp axe to go along with this as well. So you really have all the edge tools you need in Buck's Compadre camp series. So I just kind of going through, trying some feathers again on this floorboard. This is a great knife. We got that nice 5160 high carbon spring steel, which of course comes along with Buck's world-renowned Boss heat treatment. So, okay. You're getting good 5160. Boom! Did you get it? There we go. First try throwing this knife, stuck it right in that tree. Yank it out. That's how far it went in, which I'd say is pretty good. Here I am trying to throw it and emulate that, but I kept missing. I need a little more practice on the knife throwing.
Almost.
And probably a better target too. So just showing some failures. Holding the knife at the handle. Flinging it over. I don't know how to throw a knife, but it's all good. No fear of this knife breaking. Here's a Donnie B all day drop test. I don't have a stump, so I tried sticking it in that stick, but I missed and I went in the ground. But tip down, it's still the nice drop balance test. Throw it in, miss epically. So let's try chopping at it. Try to do some more chopping. You'll see again here.
Yeah.
We're hacking away. This knife, it's not built for chopping. It's just not. That's okay. You don't need it to chop. If you need it as a survival knife, you shouldn't need to chop sticks like this in a realistic situation. There will be plenty of smaller ones on the ground for your fire needs, for kindling. Then you can just toss this big old one on top. There's no need to chop it.
You getting all that? See,
You know, you can have
you gotta move.
some of that wood sticking out and push that into your fire as one end continues to burn. So,
Don't worry.
you know, that same goes for batoning wood. In reality, you don't really need to ever do that. There should be fine enough sticks in the woods where you don't need it. So, there's the chop. Well, there you have it, folks. There was your look at a few sort of little tests of the Buck Model 104. We did attempted to do some fire starting. We definitely were able to throw sparks off of the spine, this knife off the ferro rod. I didn't really scrape off that much tinder because I'm not really looking to build a fire right now. You know, it was just basically just a test to see, you know, I scraped that cedar bark with the spine of the knife to kind of create some fire tinder. It was just like a tiny little thing. Obviously, if you want to get a real fire started, whether you're out bushcrafting, camping, you know, God forbid you're in a survival situation, this knife can do it for you. You know, overall, this is a fantastic knife. It's really one of my favorites in my collection. You know, it's definitely comparable to the 656 Large Pursuit that you saw in my last video. If you didn't see it in my last video, go watch it. So you can see they are, you know, pretty much the same length. A little bit thicker on the top, as I said in the intro. Both excellent companion belt blades. This one I mentioned has a pro upgrade with S35VN steel, different handle color with blaze orange replacing that green. This one, you can find a couple different you know, recreations of the knife. There's a website called SK Blades that has a version of this called the Frontier, I believe, which has brown burlap micarta handle scales, a uncoated D2 steel blade with a full flat grind. The grind on the base model here is a hollow grind, which Buck puts on the vast majority of their knives. Buck releases a special knife each month called the Buck of the Month. I think maybe 2 months ago or so they did a Buck of the Month of this with red burlap micarta scales, a flat ground 3V steel blade. So top-notch tool steel there that you know, bushcraft and survival, you know, folks love. Great toughness and edge retention, but you know, 5160 is no slouch either. So if you can, yeah, you can look up those knives. The Outdoors company Filson also has you know, their version of this knife. I think it's basically the same as this, except I think the blade is blaze orange. So there's always that if you like that. But anyway, I believe I said earlier, I think the ergos and the handle are definitely a bit better on this knife. But you know, they're both top-notch, you know, companion belt knives for outdoor tasks from Buck. Huzzah! Pick your poison, pick them both. Enjoy your knives, use your knives. I'll see you next time.